And we're back to your number one sports podcast, All Things Sports. I'm your co-host, Small Town EP, joined by your host, Wade Julian. Special guest of the night, Big Kev. Good to see you. In the night where the city of Boston comes out victorious in both the NBA and NHL, the city of Atlanta comes to terms with not having a GOAT head coach in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and Jim Harbaugh pens his return to the NFL. ATS is back to give you the real in sports. Speaking of Boston, the ATS family here would like to give a huge shout out to Strictly SP on his birthday today. Very happy Earth Strong, happy birthday, as well as giving our condolences to him and his family, his brother, Small Town Cardi, family friend Cardi, ATS friend Cardi, small town native Cardi, and Strictly. They're going through some troubling times in their family right now, so we want to express our condolences and tell you that we love you. It's
Love
kind
you,
of hard
bro.
to it's kind of hard to talk sports after that, but we're here and we are going to get straight into it. NFL Conference Championship weekend is here. Kansas City at Baltimore, Detroit at San Francisco. We'll start in time order, I guess. In the early game, I was hoping I was going to be the later game, but it made sense as to why the Kansas City and Baltimore game is the early game, 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Baltimore 4-point favorite at home, hosting the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. June, biggest game of Lamar's career or what?
100%. And before we get into the sports thing, man, I appreciate you, EP1, for taking the time to express, our shared mutual feelings and condolences to both of their families. That's family to us. And I just want to appreciate you for a moment because we have a show to do, and whether anybody looks at this as light work, anybody looks at this as their little thing, whatever the case is, I know, Kev here knows the work we put in and the time we dedicate to this, and the mental, I guess, um, I mean, the mental strength to get through an episode one. So for you to be using it for this when you're going through a hard time, small town, family is going through a hard time right now. You're still kind of putting your head up and pushing through with this big week we got here. So I just want to appreciate my show my appreciation to you, and once again just kind of let everybody know that we got their back. So
Thank you, man.
uh,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
of course, bro. With that being said, man, Lamar Jackson, we find ourselves in one of the more exciting times of the year as far as the sports world, January, where football is at its peak. Basketball is getting, into the heat of things. All Star is talk is starting to rumble. And so, yeah, 100% biggest game of his career. Never made the AFC Championship. I think he's at 500 or just below 500 now in his playoff career. Might be at 2-3 or so.
Yeah, two
Um,
and three.
and guess what? He's gonna have to beat the best to be the best, man. And so he's already got that MVP locked up. But that Super Bowl we know is really the main thing. He has the attitude of keep the main thing the main thing. He's extremely mature for where he's at, and the big thing that just always pops in my head when I think about Lamar Jackson and his Super Bowl run is him getting drafted number 32 overall in 2018 after number of quarterbacks, and his statement to Deion Sanders was that he's going to get the Ravens a Super Bowl. And he's standing on business right now as we speak. This offseason, there was no question. So I guess the question was, is this, the biggest game of his career? Yes. And to answer that is yes. But, before the season started, the interesting thing is that nobody wanted to sign Lamar Jackson. The Ravens almost didn't even want to sign Lamar Jackson and give him the money that he was demanding and thought he had earned, and um, he represented himself. He got the deal. Odell Beckham Jr. ends up signing, and some people looked at it as, washed up Odell, this, that, and the third. Odell has had a big factor in the Ravens' success this season. It's not the hugest, but what he does in the locker room as far as a leader and his experience as far as getting to a Super Bowl is going a long way. So just shout out to the Ravens, Coach Harbaugh on that side for getting to another Super Bowl, or excuse me, AFC Championship. Um, yeah, man, this is huge for them.
Kev, I got a question for you. Does this with this game? Whose legacy does this game do more for? Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson?
Oh, Lamar. I mean, Mahomes has two. I think as the favorite, especially as Lamar being the favorite, especially, and Kansas City kind of having a down year. I mean, they're in the AFC Championship game, but a down year. Um, I don't think people expect Patrick Mahomes to or expected him to even get a lot of people didn't even expect him to get past Buffalo last week. So I think he's kind of in one of those situations where he's playing with house money, so to speak. Lamar has way more riding on this as far as legacy goes. Granted, he's about to be a two-time MVP. Like, he has nothing to prove to anybody but himself at this point, and that's winning a Super Bowl, and that's all that's left really for him to accomplish in this league, and it's something that we'll see if he can get it done.
Some big key factors that are going to definitely affect this game. One, on the Kansas City side, left guard Joe Tooney could be out. We're not 100% sure yet. He did strain his pectoral muscle in the divisional round at Buffalo. And I mean, I said it on the last episode. If we want to have any success against this Baltimore defense, we're going to have to establish a run game against this defensive line that is the best defensive line. And without Joe Tooney, Isaiah Pacheco he's gonna have a long day with this defensive line, but without that starting left guard Joe Tooney, it's gonna be a little bit of a longer day, I would say. And then of course, I mean, Chris Jones and again, June, I'm never gonna let you relive this down. My man George Karlaftis, if they can, get some pressure without sending extra guys, Kansas City anyway, it's definitely gonna be a positive. I mean, I'm excited. Turnover differential, Chiefs are -11, Ravens are +12. So I mean, we haven't been able to keep the ball much this season. Ravens have been doing an excellent job. They are 6-3 at home, while the Chiefs are 6-2 away in the regular season. I mean, we're in for a treat because we got this game early, and then later in the evening at around what is it, 6 p.m.,
6:30, 6 o'clock, I think it is.
6:30, once again at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, the San Francisco 49ers will host the Detroit Lions. San Francisco -7 favorite, whole touchdown favorite at home. Y'all know the Vegas rules. I'm not going to repeat them this time. June, is this -7 warranted? Because I mean, it's a conference championship. Is the -7 warranted for San Francisco to be favored by an entire touchdown?
Yeah, I mean, this team was the best team in the league until Lamar and the Ravens really showed them who was. But we've had high expectations for this San Francisco 49ers team since last year. And coming into this year, they exceeded those expectations. Um, Detroit, as good as they have been, as good as they've gotten over this course of the season, they're still the underdog through and through. They're still, the inferior team. And that's saying a lot to the 49ers. That's not saying a lot to the Lions as far as expectation goes. When you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's an Offensive Player of the Year and I think MVP candidate, you got Deebo Samuel that who to me is going to be the X factor here. If Deebo Samuel is healthy or healthy enough to play and actually get some touches and contribute the way he normally does, then I think they should have no problem winning this game. But if Deebo Samuel is not going to be doing the same things that he normally does or getting the ball as much because of that shoulder injury, that's going to be very concerning for Kyle Shanahan's offense. And Brock Purdy's going to have to do a lot more with his arm to win this game. So I think the key thing for Detroit is to stay true to who they are They got to run the ball and make sure that both David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs get lots of touches. Jared Goff, he's again somebody you can trust, somebody that you don't feel uh, nervous making decisions because he's not going to put your team in bad places, especially with a good group of wideouts like they have and a tight end as a security blanket. So, like I said, if they stay true and run that ball, that's their best chance. But unfortunately, I don't think that defense is going to be able to find a way to stop Christian McCaffrey along with Debo Samuel if he's able to, get some key contribution.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that the 49ers, they are familiar with Jared Goff. He spent 5 seasons in the NFC West with the Rams. I mean, he got, the best of the early matchups against Shanahan's Niners, winning all three of his starts between the 2017 and 2018 season. Um, since then, he moved forward, back, you know, so they're very familiar with Goff. Kev, if Detroit is to cover the 7, maybe pull out an upset, advance to their first Super Bowl, what are going to be some key factors for Detroit to do that? And do you think that could actually happen, Kev?
Cover the 7 or win the game?
I guess let's do both.
I definitely think they can cover the 7. Uh, it's a weird line to me because Green Bay was just 9.5 point underdog, so they're saying that Detroit's only 2.5 points better than Green Bay, um, which I don't think is the case. I think
I
Detroit's.
think it's fair to say. Sorry, I think so.
I mean, I think Detroit's a little bit better than that, but I mean, we saw as far as the keys to the game for Detroit, we saw Aaron Jones go 18 for 108 um, against the San Francisco defense. And I think that's what Detroit's going to have to do. And they're going to have to rely on Gibbs and Montgomery, like Julian just said, to run the ball and do it effectively. And I think that they can do that. It's really going to be like, can they keep the offense of San Francisco off the field? Like if they're effective running the ball and they're able to eat clock and control time possession, then I think they can cover regardless. But as far as winning the game, I think that's what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to control the clock. They're going to probably have to have time of possession somewhere around the 35-minute mark, I would say, and limit what San Francisco can do on offense, more so because of the weapons that they have. McCaffrey, Debo, which he doesn't really look like he's 100%. He's probably not 100%. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with him on Sunday. But I think the key for Detroit is definitely pound the ball, ground and pound, play the defense that you've been playing, and stay true to your identity at the end of the day for Detroit.
Yeah, I think that's all good points. Just back to the covering and Jordan Love and the Packers being a -9, they covered and they could have won that game if it wasn't due to, again, I'm gonna stand on that weather control point I made, but also Jordan Love just being young and having a moment in the playoffs that all greats have. Um, that game was very winnable, and so I think Detroit being at -7, um, it's still fair because yes, they are better than Green Bay, but I think if Green Bay would have hypothetically won that game, there's a fair shot that Green Bay can go on and win, against Detroit. So I could see why the -7 is there. This is clearly, the home team, the team that's been clearly better all season. And Detroit has holes. Like there are some things that Detroit, is going to have to hide, like their defensive back group, and they're going to have to make sure that Brock Purdy's under pressure. That's kind of going to be their key as well. If they can get Aiden Hutchinson and those guys on the line to really attack, um, yeah, it'll be tough for the 49ers, but it's a good team over there, man. And we're probably going to see one of the better Super Bowls. The 49ers have always been in that NFC Championship. They've played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And, you know, this is like, you mentioned Kyle Shanahan, EP, losing to Jared Goff and that Rams team in Sean McVay's offense a couple years ago when they were in the same division. I'm glad you brought that up. This is like the best iteration of what Kyle Shanahan imagined his team to be, right? And so they got
Absolutely.
everything they need right now. And he's like, all right, like that's like I guess I guess when your sibling, for those with siblings, like when your sibling gets that new toy, there's an older sibling, they get the new toy, and then maybe like a week later, like you get the newer one that just came out, and it's just like, haha, yeah, now my shit's hot now. But I'm excited for this game. As good as I know Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes game is going to be, and that's Chiefs Ravens. I want to put respect on the teams' names. I think this game has a chance to be a better game, um, based off of how good San Francisco is and how hungry Detroit is going to be to get to their first Super Bowl. So
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned Shanahan. This matchup, the NFC, which is the NFC Championship, has two very polarized, I would say, coaches, and Dan Campbell being one of, if not the most aggressive coach in the league as far as going for it on fourth down, sending defensive backs on blitzes when they usually they usually execute well when they send the backs on blitzes. And then Kyle Shanahan, that he's a little more cautious as far as just going for it on fourth down, sending crazy pressure. And I mean, when you have a defensive line like the Niners do, you don't really need to worry too much about the pressure you're going to cause to the opposing team. And you brought up Aiden Hutchinson as well, June. What a story! I mean, this is a homegrown kid, as they say. Went to Michigan, grew up a Lions fan. He's now playing for the Lions. I mentioned last week Dan Campbell was a part of that 0-16 Lions team in 2008. I mean, just what a Cinderella story that they have going on right now. I said last week that it would end, and again, the Bake Show wasn't able to come through cooking for me. This week, I don't want to fade them again. There's something in my gut saying do not fade Detroit this week, but all while having to put respect on the San Francisco 49ers in their third straight NFC championship appearance, and trying to avenge that, somewhat embarrassing loss from last season. Really, like I said, we're in for a treat. This could be one of the best, if not the best, weekend of football ahead of us. Similar to what Tom Brady would say. They asked him, "What's your favorite championship?" He would always say, "The next one." Right? We'll stay in football. Breaking news this afternoon. Right? Yeah, this morning afternoon, Jim Harbaugh will sign with the Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to be in the AFC West. This is a division that's had, if I'm not mistaken, 11 new head coaches since Pat Mahomes' reign started. So, I mean, it's definitely a turnaround type of year for the Chargers. Is this automatically a playoff team, June, or is it going to take a year or two for them to kind of figure out the wrinkles and maybe Jim Harbaugh to bring his team in?
it should be a playoff team. I mean, the talent over there. The problem is with Brandon Staley is that they had all the talent in the world and couldn't do anything with it.
Lil
Like,
Hat.
and so the payroll, first of all, that's like their biggest problem. Like, you guys got to make the playoffs if you're going to pay this amount of money to all these players. And so, again, it's not like they're paying a bunch of money to these guys that don't deserve it. I think guys weren't put in their best place to win throughout the season. And a guy like Harbaugh, who, yes, he's coming from the NCAA and winning a championship in college isn't the same as in the pros. I understand. However, having championship pedigree and culture as a coach does a lot for a locker room. It does a lot for a group of guys who don't have that, um, i.e., Justin Herbert. And it's one of those things where it's like I was watching Dwayne Wade's new podcast with Pat Riley. Kev, I know you checked out most of it. I'm not sure if you finished yet. I still have to finish part two. But Pat Riley kind of just let them know, like, you guys got to, like, let me lead you, follow me. I can get you there. And so Jim Harbaugh is going to bring a lot of that to Los Angeles, And I'm excited to see what he can get out of Justin Herbert, and then those guys who are vets on that team that, are still trying to get to that deep playoff run, what he can get from those guys as well. I do see this team making the playoffs in 2024. I'm not sure right now. This is kind of like, me thinking out loud, but I just think that the roster is too talented to not go if you're well coached.
Hey man, there's stories that they did. He was supposed to go meet with Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, and the Chargers didn't even let him leave LA. They said, "Listen, this is the offer," and apparently he couldn't refuse. And he's obviously been on record as saying how much he likes Justin Herbert, how he wants to coach Justin Herbert, and now his chance to help Justin Herbert regain his Sunshine nickname comes next season. Kev, they do host Baltimore next year, Kev. The Chargers do. The exact schedule I believe is not out yet,
The
but the
opponents are
home yeah, the home and away opponents have been posted. The Ravens will travel to LA to SoFi. The Battle of the Hardballs. How excited are you for Jim to be back in the NFL, Kev?
I I mean, outside of like I love Rex Ryan, obviously for he's been the most successful coach that the Jets have had in my history of fandom. But outside of like anybody that's ever coached the Jets, Harbaugh is probably my favorite football coach. Just in general, I just think everything that he does is he's great at. Anywhere he goes, he succeeds. He's always been a great football mind and a great coach. Um, so I'm excited to see what he brings, and I think that that team has underwhelmed for the last 2 3 years, and we see what Herbert can be. And with Staley, it just wasn't for whatever reason he wasn't maximizing that. And you got a guy like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Um, and Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert. I mean, like, there's no reason that you don't have a playoff win at least already. And then you have a playoff win in your hands and you blow it in Jacksonville last year. So um, it's a long time coming, I think, for Staley to go. Maybe the Chargers knew something that Harbaugh maybe give him another year and maybe Harbaugh will be here. But yeah, I'm excited for him to be back in the league. He's got his national championship now that he's been wanting to get. Now that he's got that out of the way, now it's time to come to the NFL and get the Lombardi that he's looking for.
So desperately coveted.
Hey, June, outside, you're good, Kev. What's up?
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say because I was looking at the opponents, and I mean, coming in last place obviously has its advantages, especially when you have such a talented team that comes in last place, because then you get to play all the last place teams throughout the league. So they have Arizona, they have Tennessee, they have the Patriots, they have the Panthers, and then they have the NFC South and the AFC North. So not like a terribly tough schedule. There's probably already, I mean, granted, we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but just based off of that, I mean, you've probably got at least 6 wins there.
No, I definitely think that the goal for the Chargers is definitely double digit wins this year. Michigan just refused, you know, Jim Harbaugh's demands, his contract demands, and it's a 5-year deal in LA. The exact numbers I believe aren't out yet, but it definitely more than the 12.5 million that he wanted from Michigan, but less than I think 18 million, which was the initial um, rumor, initial kind of floating numbers that were out there. 5-year deal, June. Is there a Super Bowl for the Chargers in the next 5 years?
I mean,
Appearance.
it's a tough AFC. I'll start with that, man. And there's a lot of teams in this AFC. Like, we're still, as much as people might not like what this is going to sound like, that Jets team is still something to see. I still want to see what Aaron Rodgers could bring to the AFC and in the AFC East specifically.
Me too.
So that we got the Dolphins who are going to go, take three. We're going to go take three. I'm excited to see what that firepower offense can do after, a lot of injuries this year and at unfortunate times. The Chiefs are obviously going to be there. This Ravens team looks promising for the next few years.
Joe
My
Burrow
Colts,
will be back healthy.
CJ Stroud, right? There's a lot of teams, and I'm not saying that all these teams are the Colts and the Texans are going to be Super Bowl contenders just yet. However, these are teams that can knock out the Chargers in the playoffs, in my belief. So, in 5 years, I'm not sure that the Chargers are going to get to a Super. I don't know that we'll see the Chargers in the Super Bowl for a long time. And I know that Harbaugh is a great coach, and he can lead a group of guys to a place like that. However, I want to see what this roster looks like under him, and what he's able to do at least for the first year or two, and see what direction they're going to head in, because it is make or break for them as far as like where they're currently at. Are they going to continue to just keep trying with this veteran roster, or are they going to try to rebuild? What Justin Herbert, he's only got so much time to just keep wasting, right? So, um, no, I'll go. No, I don't see them in a Super Bowl within 5 years, but I am excited for Harbaugh to be coaching a team that he once played for. That's pretty full circle.
Yeah, it is pretty dope. That is pretty dope. I know I mentioned Bill Belichick being the GOAT head coach. He's still available to be hired right now. He doesn't have a job essentially. It's not going to be an ATL in the nice city of Atlanta that I currently reside in. Raheem Morris, former, if I'm not mistaken, wide receivers coach, former quarterbacks coach, former a bunch of coaches from the Atlanta Falcons, as well as former interim head coach in the 2019-2020 season. Left, went to LA. He is now back in Atlanta as the head coach. I'm all about a brother getting a job at the top, but I do have my own personal feelings about how this went down. Kev, smart hire for Atlanta to bring back Raheem Morris as their head coach? You're on mute. You're on mute.
My bad. So was Raheem Morris the best hire for the Falcons? I'm gonna lean no. However, I also don't think it was Bill. But you know, um, yeah, I just like we see guys. I feel like the head coach is getting recycled thing is like very old and annoying. At some point, it's like we know who this guy is as a head coach, and we've seen it, and it didn't work the first time, and it didn't work the second time, and it didn't work when you had him in your building and made him the interim head coach and decided to not keep him on your staff anymore. So like, why are we giving him a fourth opportunity? So that's the only reason why I think like probably could have gone another direction. Um, but yeah, I think the stuff with Belichick is like, how old is he?
72, 73, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I don't know. Like we just saw with the Dolphins with Vic Fangio, like those old school guys don't get the attention of these locker rooms anymore. And as legendary of a coach as Bill Belichick is, he's 85 and 102 is his record without Tom Brady as a starting quarterback. So I mean, if you really, I'm sure he's not coming cheap. So if you're the Falcons, it's weighing the fact that if those are your two options, do you want the 70-plus-year-old guy who probably can't connect with the guys in the locker room and is going to cost you probably 2 or 3 times more than Raheem Morris and may not get you results at the end of the day? Or do you try somebody else and see what they can do? So
Don't forget, Vrabel's still out there too right now.
Vrabel is still out there, and that's more surprising to me is that they Vrabel's out there, and I would think Vrabel would be the perfect guy for a job like Atlanta when you've got all those young guys on offense, and if he can go find a good offensive coordinator, or even Ben Johnson, who seems destined for the Commanders job. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think Raheem Morris is the best hire, but I see why they decided not to go with Belichick. And I said the
Kev,
other day, yeah,
do you have a specific reason why you don't think Raheem Morris is the best hire?
I just think we've seen him. Like we know what he is as a head coach. I don't.
Okay, just for as far as like the recycling thing, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's that.
I think that it wasn't the best decision either. Um, I'm all for it. Word to EP. I'm not gonna hate on that. However, last week I started the show with breaking news that the Bengals offensive coordinator, was going to get the head coaching job in Tennessee. And if you look at the AFC South, you got Stroud, you got Lawrence, you got Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, and then you got Brian Callahan, Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans, and who's the fourth team here that I'm missing? Jaguars. Doug Peterson, who
Doug
is a
Peterson.
Super Bowl winning offensive minded, younger offensive minded type coach. Now, um, I'm my thing with Atlanta is that Raheem Morris isn't a bad coach. He did coach some bad teams, like when he coached in Tampa Bay from '09 to 11. There wasn't no talent there really, and so you can't necessarily blame him. However, uh, did he impact it so much to change it? No. So we saw that when he went to the Rams and was a DC, which defense is his specialty. Uh, we see what happens, right? And so um, I think I would have went if I'm. This is also the first time Arthur Blank hires a former head coach. So maybe if I'm Arthur Blank, I would have went with a newer offensive minded type of guy, maybe a Ben Johnson. And obviously there's interview process, there has to be, it has to make sense. And I'm not talking to these guys. I don't know any of them personally, but like, I'm thinking the mind of a Ben Johnson, the mind of a Bobby Slovic, offense coordinator for the Texans, because you have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, you have Bijan Robinson, and you want to maximize those talents. Like if you had, a young Aaron Donald or a young this, that, and the third, but you got to coach to your strengths as well. And so, again, I'm not mad at it because I think I also wanted to go on the tangent as far as like head coaches get a lot of slack, which they should. They're like the quarterback of the coaching staff, right? And so they got to take a lot of blame for things. They're ultimately the guy who's saying yes and no to things. However, everybody has their own job and their responsibility, and a franchise trusts each other to go out and make those decisions. It's not going to be super micromanaged every down. And so your offensive coordinator needs to, an offensive, passing coordinator, run game coordinator, they all got to come together with a plan that week and be able to execute on Sunday. Now, coach is going to have a say in what he likes throughout the week as far as game planning and what he wants to see more of, less of. But it's ultimately on the play caller for offense, on the play caller for defense to go out there and get the job done. And so I think it's more so about how you feel your staff around you and how you can lead this group of guys more so than like the head coach has to be the guy to answer all the questions. You know what I mean? So Raheem Morris isn't a it might not be the great hire. However, if he fills his staff out with a guy who's an offensive coordinator now in another system, but maybe wants to coach some guys like Drake London and Bijan Robinson on offense, he'll have a good opportunity to find some good coaching there. But real quick, EP, just to kind of talk about these coaches, like you said, we got Vrabel still available, Bill Belichick still available, and there's only 2 jobs left. And so Seahawks, Commanders, are we done with Bill Belichick? Are we going to see him coach again? Because if he doesn't coach this year,
Is Carolina still open too?
Carolina just signed offensive coordinator from the NFC South team. Was it the Bucks? The Buccaneers.
Yeah,
You're
Buccaneers.
right. You're right.
And he's actually the only active Hispanic head coach after Ron Rivera got the boot, deservingly so. Love to be prideful for my heritage, but Ron Rivera was not getting the job done over there. EP can vouch. But it's interesting to
Shout
see.
out my Hispanics.
Yeah, it's interesting to see another Hispanic getting a job. And so, yeah, like back to my point, if Bill Belichick doesn't get a job this year, is he going to sit out a year and then come back next year? Like, is this the end for Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick?
I mean, that's what it looks like with Bill. I don't think he's, unless Pete goes and hires him, because they said that Carroll's going to stay in the Seattle front office, or it's a weird situation with Pete Carroll because it seems like he still wanted to coach, but then he decided that he didn't. after
I think they decided that he didn't.
yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation, and then he might stay on, but then he's going on after like on his radio show and like taking jabs. I don't know. That's a very weird situation in Seattle, but um, I don't know. Maybe Pete is like, hey, let's go hire Bill.
I can imagine Bill sitting in those interviews like, I want my guys. I'm hiring my own staff. I'm bringing my team. I'm bringing my team in. This whole thing is getting blown up. And then they were like, whoa, 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 old man. What did you think was going on? We need you to just coach. We don't need you to run the front office. That didn't
Bill,
work. That didn't
Bill
work out
was
for you.
Bill would not have liked Atlanta anyways. So
Oh my God. Let's take it over. Look, exciting week in football. I'm super excited, obviously. Let's take it over to the basketball courts. A lot of trades, a lot of stuff, a lot of head coaches as well losing jobs, being escorted out of the building, as they say. Most notably, Wes Unseld in Washington, Adrian Griffin in Milwaukee. That, and I want to talk about the Milwaukee one because that was a little interesting to me, especially reports saying that there was an airing out after they lost in the in-season tournament to the Pacers, and that's when he knew that a sacrifice had to be made. Bro, it's the first in-season tournament, sir. You have the best, arguably, one if not the best, one of the best players in the world as far as the NBA is concerned on your team. You got Dame Lillard on your team as well. I mean, the talent is there. And after, I'm not saying you guys shouldn't have had a discussion. Maybe, maybe your voices were raised in this discussion a little bit and some things may have been said. But, sir, it's your first season there and it's the first in-season tournament. Like, who gives a fuck, honestly? Like at this point, like really, who gives a fuck about this in-season tournament in the grand scheme of things? So this firing, to me, kind of came out of nowhere. Kev, how did you feel about it?
I mean, I feel like it was almost like the writing was kind of on the wall early in the season, even before the first game was played, when the whole incident with Terry Stotts happened, and Terry Stotts quit because of an incident that happened with Adrian Griffin. And Terry Stotts is a highly regarded coach in the league, has a very good relationship with Damian Lillard, who went on Instagram right after Terry Stotts quit and posted a picture of Damian Lillard and Terry Stotts together. So that was the first sign to me that okay, something's weird here because he's backing up his coach that just quit the team and not his coach that's currently coaching the team. Um, and then just little things that you've seen like on the sideline with Giannis subbing himself back into the game when Griffin is pulling him out the game and things like that. He very clearly didn't have control of the team. And he also, I don't think, is a really great. Obviously he's a first year head coach, and unfairly to him, he's got incredibly big expectations with the team that he has. Um, but he's not a great X's and O's guys right now, and I think we see the same thing with Joe Mazzulla. Like he's not a great X's and O's guy. Um, yeah, they. I mean,
Don't get June started on Missoula.
they're not like, and granted, they're young. They're young coaches, and Missoula's in his second year, Griffin's in his first year, and these things come. But when you have these teams that have championship aspirations, you need to have all that down, and you need to, because when it comes playoff time, you're going to go against the Spos, and you're going to go against the, well, Budenholzer is not a coach anymore, but you're going to go against the Tyronn Lues and things of that nature. So you need to be you need to be good with the X's and O's. You need to be able to adjust, and those guys haven't shown that
The
yet.
Rick Carlisles.
The Rick Carlisles. I mean, these are guys that you got to coach against, and they'll coach circles around you. Like we just saw Spo do to Missoula last year, and we saw Spo do to Budenholzer last year, and Budenholzer's a great coach.
And Thibodeau.
And Thibodeau, yeah, definitely Thibodeau. So,
Oh my God, that's the nice thing for the night, June. That was just your little.
No. We'll get there. We gotta, you know what I'm saying? We gotta warm it up.
I heard that. I heard that. So, June, would you say that this Adrian Griffin firing wasn't a surprise to you either?
No, it was definitely a surprise to me. I'm not gonna act like I wasn't surprised seeing the 30-13 Milwaukee second seed Bucks, fire their head coach who's in his first year. Of course, it was a surprise. Do I see how it can make sense? Of course. I mean, we saw the David Blatt situation in Cleveland when LeBron was on his quest to try to win that finals. Um, now, the thing about the whole in-season tournament, I wouldn't say who gives a shit because it is something to be mindful of. Is that birthday balloons for SP? Shout out to SP, man. Happy birthday. Um,
Yeah, I don't know
but,
what was going on there, but yeah, word
but
up.
like I, their defense, obviously losing Drew Holiday has an effect on this team, and them not letting them letting 135 points up on Detroit, versus Detroit is alarming. And so I'm sure that in the front office and in the locker room, there had to be some feelings and rumblings of like, yeah, like Kev said, the playoffs that's when coaches really have to step up. Do we see this coach being the guy at key moments for this franchise trying to get its second championship in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever, being the guy to call the X's and O's and make the right decisions? And they probably felt uncomfortable saying yes wholeheartedly. And so um, there was a highlight where during that Pistons game when they were close enough to win, coach subs out Giannis, and Giannis walks to the bench and says, "Why?" Like I don't know what he said, but it looks like, "Why are you taking me out? Like what's going on?" And so he's like, "You're right, Pat Connaughton, come back out." And Giannis is like, "Yeah, coach, yeah, tell him, yeah, all right." And so when you got stuff like that, it's the writing's on the wall at that point. But we'll see where he ends up and who replaces him in the long term, or it's going to be Doc Rivers. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's exciting as a Heat fan, as a Knicks fan, right?
Yeah. And I also just want to just say really quick, that was nasty work what Milwaukee did, because to have Doc consult Adrian Griffin and then a month or two later be like, you know what, Griffin, you can go. You're dismissed. And then hire the guy that you had consulting him. That's it's a little nasty.
And then you also have, like I just mentioned, Wes Unseld in Washington, and it's the words that he's transitioning into the front office as well.
Yes.
Very interesting. And then
Right.
they moved Keefe up to head coach, or Keefe. I'm not sure how you say his last name. I apologize if I butchered that. Up to be the head coach. I mean, it sucks. Again, word to me, like I just said, I hate to see a brother not have a job, but um, 7-37, fifth
Oh,
in
he
the
got a
South.
job.
He will
Seven
always have a job because his father is a legend in that franchise. So
facts.
that is a thank you.
Classy move, Washington.
Can't burn your bridges. Can't burn your bridges. But 7-37, I got to agree.
I'll burn the fuck out of that bridge.
I got to agree with the
7 and 37,
coaching
I will
change.
never cross back. All right. What could you help with? No, I'm kidding, man. But that roster, that talent on that roster doesn't give him enough either. So we gotta be mindful of that.
Yeah, not many pool parties going on in Washington this year, I could probably
I
say.
must say this, bro. A lot of hype around Washington, and understanding they would be a bad team, but a fun team to watch. There is nothing fun about watching this Washington team.
Only if you're
It's
playing against.
bad basketball. It's bad basketball. It's not well coached basketball. It's not serious every night. It's not disciplined basketball, and it's not even fundamentally sound basketball. So, as far as like Kev said, they do have a legend, Wes Unseld Sr., who is the reason probably, and I say this with respect, but it seems to be the reason that his son didn't get let go of the organization in full, because you tell me that this is any other, you know what I'm saying, coach, 7-36, they probably give him the boot, don't promote him in the front office. But I'm not mad at it. I mean, that's what they feel is.
He failed upwards.
that's what they feel is best for the organization right now. Do what you got to do. But yeah, you guys are frankly 7-36, and the only reason we don't talk about you as much is because I don't know how, but there's a team with less wins in Detroit, and their coach still has a job. But I'll digress.
We'll go from Milwaukee to DC, and then from DC, we'll take it down. The media likes to call it South Beach, but June likes me to be politically correct and say downtown Miami. We'll take it down to the south. And the Heat. What's up, Kev?
I don't know what's going on with these bubbles you got coming up.
I don't know either, bro. I'm gonna keep my hands down for the remainder of the pod. I talk with my hands a lot, but it seems like the software right now is giving me thumbs up when I don't want them. It's putting balloons in my face when I pause, and that's definitely a pause when I don't want them. I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna just keep my hands down here outside of the camera view, and maybe when you see my twist shaking and stuff, I can talk with my hair. I guess I don't know, but I digress. The Miami Heat trade Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick for the rights of Terry Rozier. And I know you guys are very excited as Heat fans for it to be as spooky as it is in downtown Miami. June, what do you expect out of the second half of this season with the addition of Terry Rozier?
Well, welcome Terry Rozier to downtown Miami. Welcome to the Heat culture. He's been a fan. You know what I'm saying? This is somebody who grew up a fan of the Miami Heat, somebody who idolized Dwayne Wade, and I'm a friend of anybody who is a Heat fan. I'm a friend of anybody who is, Dwayne Wade's my favorite player because we relate. We really, really relate. And so it's exciting to have another 20-point per game scorer, another guard who can score and also play some defense, who can shoot the three, who's not afraid. Um, we're just in the midst of this 5-game losing streak right now, and so it's hard to be super excited or giddy about the new acquisition because we're 2 games into the acquisition, and obviously he needs more time to get acclimated in the offense and things like that. So I'll give him a break there. But this team is going through an offensive crisis right now, and Spo is at the top because what are we watching? Like this is like what are we watching at this point? And so, in my belief, just being a Heat fan, it's January. It's not like every January this is the case, but in January, you're going to struggle throughout the season at points. And I think this is just one of those, bumps in the road that we're going to have to figure out, get through offensively. And it's also going to gel this team together. It's like it can make or break. I've never seen, a bump really break a Miami Heat team. So I do think that this adversity is going to go a long way when it comes to late March, early April, when this team's fighting for a higher playoff spot and in the playoffs. I just think that as happy as I am with this Terry move, we still need more, and maybe a 3-and-D wing can get us over the hump, whether it's through the buyout market or using Caleb Martin as a trade asset. I don't want to kill too much because I know Kev has thoughts on this too, but just overview for me right now as a fan on January 25th is just extremely frustrating. What we're seeing night in, night out for the past 5, 6, 7 games, just lower effort than we're used to. And there are bright spots because, you got to look at like Bam Adebayo putting up a career high 6 blocks, going 15, 15, and 6. And you see that when his offensive production isn't there and he has more of a defensive responsibility, he's the best defender in the league. So, of course, there are things to look bright at. But I want to call out Jimmy Butler, and I want to say, listen, bro, you are my favorite player in the league. You're my favorite player on my favorite team. But it's time for you to do something in the regular season. It's no more time for the cruise control. There's no more time for 10 attempts a game this month. Like, you need to be shooting the ball close to 20 times a night, putting pressure at the rim, getting to the foul line 5 to 7 times a night minimum. And it's going to, in turn, open things up for everybody else. We want to look at Tyler Hero and how our record is when he's in the starting lineup. We want to look at, is Terry Rozier going to be able to be acclimated, or can Duncan Robinson make the threes that he's supposed to, and can Bam be consistent. Listen, all of that is gonna go as far as Jimmy takes us. And this team is not going to be at its best until Jimmy Butler is at his best. And he's not at his best. He's not an all-star this year. He missed games due to injury, I understand. Bam's not an all-star just yet. Obviously, the reserves, come out next week, so there's still possibility just with fan voting that they make that. And Bam definitely deserves some all-star recognition there. But if Jimmy doesn't make the team, I wouldn't be surprised. So with that being said, it's time for Jimmy Butler to step up. And he doesn't have to go playoff Jimmy right now, but he definitely needs to put the throttle down to at least 4.5 right now.
Kev, your thoughts?
Uh,
Our
yeah.
unofficial official Heat correspondent.
I love the trade. I mean, you're going from Lowry to Terry. It's obviously there's a very big upgrade there in terms of their level of play right now. Um, I do think they need time to gel and figure it out. I think what the issue is almost like they're all trying to not step on each other's feet, right? Like Bam doesn't want to take too many shots because he doesn't want to take away from Tyler, and Tyler doesn't want to take too many shots because he doesn't want to take away from Jimmy, and Jimmy just doesn't want to take shots because it's January. And so I think right now that's like the biggest issue is who is the offense actually running through? What are they doing on offense? And I think a big part of it also, like as far as this 5-game losing streak, because it's been 6 bad games in a row since the Brooklyn game that Miami was able to come back and win. But Jaquez has missed all 6 of those games. He's been out and they've been missing him on the floor. And it's very clear that they miss him on the floor. Um, the biggest thing that I think needs to happen with this team, and I know half the fan base would disagree with me, and I think the player would disagree with me too. However, and it's not a slight to this player because I think they should close. I just don't think they should start, and I think Tyler needs to start coming off the bench. Um, he's a sixth. He's the youngest sixth man of the year in the history of the league, and I don't like I. It works. Like it's there's evidence that you coming off the bench works, and there's evidence that Duncan in the starting lineup he plays better. And I think they need more of that two-man Duncan and Bam game that they had early in the year when Tyler was out. I think they need to get back into that. Um, and I think Tyler just needs to start coming off the bench and really running that second unit. They don't have anybody coming off the bench that can do that. Duncan, as good as he's been, as great as he's been this year, he needs Bam on the floor with him to be able to really maximize his game. Josh Richardson's not a point guard. Uh, I know everybody loves Nikola Jovic. He's not a point guard. He's still developing as well at the same time. Like the Heat don't have a backup point guard to come off the bench and be that guy. And I think that's where Tyler can really fill into that spot and maximize what he can bring to the table. So um I doubt that move ever happens again because I know Tyler wants to start and I know that the organization believes in Tyler, but I don't know, man. I think like it's all there. Like the proof is in the pudding, and we've seen how good this team is. They were a 1 seed with Tyler coming off the bench, and that was with Kyle Lowry as a starting point guard. Now you've got Terry Rozier as your starting point guard, and so I would like to see them at least try to make the move and see if it does anything, changes anything, especially when Jaquez gets back. But I think those are the two things. Jaquez needs to get back, and if Hero can accept a bench role, then I think this team can really take off. Um, I don't. It's January, like June said, it's January. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I told my group chat yesterday. I said I'll hit the panic button when we're down 3-1 in a playoff series, unless we're down against Doc Rivers.
Yeah, Billy's got a good one. Hey, I'll say this though. Yeah, don't fret is what I'm going with. Um, but to your point, yeah, Duncan Robinson needs to start. I think Terry Rozier will benefit just as much as Rozier will benefit uh, by Duncan Robinson starting as much as Duncan Robinson benefits by playing with Bam because he's going to be able to be a little more free. We're seeing right now that Tyler and Terry don't want to look too selfish. And it's been 2 games again. Like I said, he's still getting acclimated to the offense. It's not fair to make a judgment, but we know who Terry Rozier is. He is a guy who can hold the ball, who can, create his own jump shot, essentially do what Tyler does for us as well. And they both do that extremely well. Why would we put them on the court, at the same time in regular rotation if we can get, maximum offensive effort from Tyler Hero leading the second unit with guys like Jay Rich, Caleb Martin, um, and please God, not Thomas Bryant, but
I mean, Hawkins.
no, but and Jaime Jaquez. So yeah, I just think with time and a lack of stubbornness. I know Spo is such a great coach, but he is extremely stubborn, and we know that. And so um, he eventually kind of realizes what we all do and what he needs to. He's somebody that I don't question because Coach Spo is the best at his craft right now, in my opinion. Um, so we just let him lead us. We'll let him lead us. But the offense, whether Tyler starts, comes off the bench, gets cut, gets traded, the team has to play better. Like there's no choice right now. So it'll be interesting to see the end of January leading into February. Trade deadline is on the 8th. I believe the Heat are not done. We will probably make another move here. Look for us to be buyers in the buyout market as well. And then we'll see what playoff roster is going to take us where we need to go. You know what I'm saying?
It feels obviously obviously we have the NFL championship weekend this weekend. Conference championship, sorry, NFL conference championship this weekend. And it just feels
That's championship weekend.
yeah, championship weekend, thank you. Because the Super Bowl is different, it's not the NFL. Anyway, it feels good to have some basketball to talk about. And we're getting to that point that, a little past the midway point of the season. We're getting towards All-Star weekend. We're getting towards, EP's annual. You gotta hit your free throw rants. Cause that happens every year when motherfuckers is missing free throws, and I'm letting them know that it cost them the game, right? And it just feels good to have some substance in the NBA to talk about, whether it's trades, whether it's unfortunate let goes, um, things like that. But it just feels really good to be able to talk about NBA in more substance now that we're wrapping up the NFL season and the NBA is getting into gear three. I would say before we get into gear 4 and 5 and hit the playoffs. Um, there isn't any club soccer in England this weekend. There is some club soccer in Germany and Spain and things like that. So there's no club soccer in England. We got the FA Cup going on right now in England. We'll be back with the EPL next month, a couple days, but it is next month. June, you have anything you want to get us out of here with, close out with?
Just a couple things in the NBA world, like you said, to piggyback off that, it is good to talk basketball. It's just, the thing about it is, and I'll be honest, I express this to you all the time, E. I don't know if the listeners and the viewers understand my point of view or sentiment on basketball at this point of the year. It's just like, I tried to watch my favorite team play the Celtics at home tonight, and they lost by 33 points. Um, I flipped the channel. Maybe the next game versus the defending champs was going to be a little better. They won 122-84. Let's see if Joel Embiid, he can't miss like 8 or 9 more games to be an MVP. But let's see if he can, put on a nice performance tonight. It's Thursday, about to hit the weekend. Indiana goes and wins 134-122. And hear that score: 134-122, 143-110, 122-84. I'm watching the Warriors and the Kings play right now, which is always a good game. This is like one of the new rivalries. And it's 98-94 with 4.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Who's playing defense these days, right? So when guys start playing with a little bit more integrity on both ends of the floor and not just one, and not just trying to outscore the other team, but actually trying to get stops and play meaningful basketball? Because we saw right after last week when we talked about Karl Anthony Towns going for almost 75 points or 70 points, whatever he had, 68. His coach came after in the post game. It was just like unacceptable performances out here by our team. We lost this game. Unserious basketball. He didn't go out there and praise Karl Anthony Towns for scoring a career high. Because guess what? What are we doing? What are we doing with 70 points from our second best player, arguably, and losing this game? That's embarrassing. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. And that's kind of the message he was sending. And it's just what I feel as far as why am I going to watch the NBA full time from October to January, February, if this is the effort they're putting up? This is the effort they're putting up, right? I'm making my effort to take time out and watch the game, go to some games, and we're getting blowouts, man. We're getting blowouts. I feel like it's a 67 to 70% chance that the game is going to be a blowout no matter who plays in the NBA nowadays. The number could be off, it could be high or low, but it's not as entertaining, it's not as entertaining right now. So once it starts to really buckle down and things slow down and possession by possession really starts to take into a factor, that's when we really ramp up the NBA talks. We'll see though. We'll see. Before I get out of here as well, I did want to acknowledge the All-Star game starters. Jalen Brunson definitely deserved to be an All-Star game starter. I do want to shout out to my cousin Lou because he tells me to say something every week. I don't much have nice things to say, but I do have a couple things to say about the Knicks. Tonight, amazing performance. They're 11-2 out of their last 13 games. Since the OG Anunoby trade, we've seen a different team. Obviously, IQ and RJ Barrett are out of the picture now, and the offense seems to be flowing much more. The defense is more physical. Julius Randle had a couple lackadaisical games here and there, but he seems to be high energy, and things seem to be trending upward as that number 4 seed tries to see a top 3 seed and finish in a top 3 seed for the first time in some time now. Some special news I want to share with y'all is it's nothing. It's set that this is going to be the case. However, we don't have the exact picture built right now. But friend of the show, guest of the show, Ev, he's not with us tonight. We got Kev on. Obviously, you guys are familiar with Kev. We have a new role for Ev. He's going to be our New York Knicks. He's going to be our
correspondent,
analyst, whatever you want to call him. So shout out to Ev. Been putting in that work, and he's gonna really help.
That's
us
exciting.
Spread this Knicks community, because guess what? They're a good team, and we gotta express that. Ev is a part of this family, and we're gonna respect that. So we'll see how that goes. But I was excited to share that with those Knicks fans that do watch the All Things Sports podcast. Kev, we're about to get out of here. I'm not sure if you had any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to share with us tonight.
Well, I'll just share that I apologize for missing about 5-10 minutes there because that could not wait.
All good, brother. All good.
I did my best.
I love this positive New York attitude. Maybe we'll get a Yankee correspondent later on this year. Huh? No.
Let's take it one step at a time, my brother. We're doing a lot here with this Knicks shit. All right, let's have some respect too, EP. Don't step out of line now. Act like because bitch, we will get a Red Sox correspondent before we get a Yankee one. If you really want me to.
They won't have much to talk about. Don't worry.
We technically got 2 Yankees correspondents on.
Yeah, I did with y'all enough. I thought you guys could handle that for me. I didn't think I needed to go find outside source. But if you guys can't handle the job, let me know. I'll try to figure something out. How hard is it to talk about the Yankees?
And as we hit the hour 5, hour 6 mark, ladies and gentlemen, this was your Thursday night NFL Championship weekend ATS episode, your number 1 sports podcast. If you tuned in to us live, we appreciate you so much. Once again, I say it every week, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with us on this beautiful Thursday night. If you're listening to us on your streaming platforms, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you listen to. If you found a way to bootleg this motherfucker, we appreciate you and we motherfucking love you. And you know what? We're going to see you Sunday night once we got the Super Bowl matchup set. You heard? That's it. Small Town EP. Wait.